everyone. Welcome. This is the Auburn School Committee meeting for October 9th, 2024. This meeting is being conducted both in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, which suspends the requirement of open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. For the public to join the meeting remotely through Zoom, use the link posted on the agenda on the town's website. All are welcome to join us in person here at 5 West Street. Please note this meeting is being recorded by the Auburn Cable Television. Thank you. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The vision of the Auburn Public Schools is to educate and prepare students for the opportunities and challenges of a changing world. Our commitment: we will create, maintain, and support an environment that fosters a sense of belonging for all students in our schools, respecting race, color, sex, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, homelessness, poverty, spoken language, and ability.
All right. Thank you, Meg. Do we have anyone here for citizens' comments? No, I think we're all just here for the good stuff. So we'll move on to special recognitions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this evening, for special recognition, we have some of the members of the Auburn boys varsity soccer team. Recently, the superintendent from Webster, Monique Perangeli, was approached, she called me last week, was approached by several parents from her boys soccer team, and they wanted to share their gratitude, surprise, and appreciation for the way they were treated during the game held on Wednesday, September 25th, between Auburn and Bartlett. This game was highly publicized, as it was to raise awareness about leukemia in honor of one of our students who is fighting leukemia now. Approaching the game, those players and parents were concerned it was going to be a very one-sided game, as they are a very young team. Instead, they were treated with the utmost respect, and they said overall it was just an amazing evening. They acknowledged that Auburn played some of their younger players, and that allowed them to still compete and to be in the game. I just wanted to thank Mr. DeLongchamp, Mr. Field, Coach Bailey, Coach Bartlett, and all the players on the team for representing Auburn with some sportsmanship. I will tell you that as superintendent, it is rare that I get such calls, even though there are a great number of wonderful things happening on our teams and in our schools and in our classrooms every day. But we tend to recognize the not so great things. But while it might seem like this is just the way it should be, and I believe this is the way it should be, we all know that it isn't always that way. So I thought this was worthy of some special recognition for thank you all for representing Auburn in a manner that really, really made us all very proud. So thank you. Coach Bailey, do you want to come up?
I just quickly want to say thank you for the invitation. Is it okay if the guys tell you why we did what we did on the 25th?
That would be great.
Yeah.
So on September 25th, we hosted our Leukemia Awareness Night. It was for Mateo and the other 3 or 4 that have leukemia in our community. And it was bigger than just the soccer game. It was bigger than us winning. It was for everyone to see that we're in it as a community and that we're always going to be there supporting them. And Mateo, the whole time he's been fighting, we know that he's fighting. He keeps us posted. His family keeps us posted. And it's sad to see how he is, because now he's been there for 5 months, almost 6. And it's just, there's been a bunch of bumps in the road for him. But we see how much he fights. We see how intertwined he is with our game. So everything that we've done from the start of the season till now and to the end of the season is going to be for Mateo. And that night, it was special. We knew that he was there watching us. We knew he was there in spirit. Even though he couldn't be there with us, he was there with us. And he was able to come out to one of our games, thankfully, which was the Millbury game, and we got to give him his captain armband. That was great. He had the biggest smile on his face that I've seen since last year. And that'll never change for us. Mateo's in our hearts. He's always there with us.
Very nice. Oh, yeah. I know I might need.
My name's Caleb. I'm a captain for the soccer team. 25th, like I said, was a special night. Every single day, practice or a game, we always are having Mateo. His jersey is right on the bench with us, or at practice. He's always with us around the team. And we wear these shirts every single game. and it's just to show that he's with us no matter what, wherever he is in the hospital. If he can come out to a game, he's always with us. Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, my name is Nicholas Jennings, and I'm part of the Auburn High School varsity team. And we wear these shirts before pre-games, every single game. It says Mateo Support Squad on the front and his last name and number on the back. We also wear wristband bands to support his cause and other leukemia patients.
Nice.
I'm Nate. I'm also on the Auburn soccer team, and that night wasn't just for Mateo. It was also for 3 other kids who are fighting leukemia. The first one, her name's Ava. She's a 7-year-old girl, and she got diagnosed a year and a half ago, and she's been having treatment since. I was able to kick the ball to her for the ceremony at the start. She's a really sweet kid. I feel bad for her. Then the next 2 are Emmett, who's a 5-year-old and is in the hospital just a couple doors down from our friend and teammate Mateo. And also another girl, Mary Angeli, who's a 14-year-old girl at Leicester who should be having her freshman year, but is not able to be there. It was just to support all 4 of the kids fighting leukemia.
I'm Wyatt. I'm also on the varsity team, and that night we actually had great success because we took a big photo at halftime, and we had many other teams that we've already played, some that we've beat, some that we've lost to, like Grafton, Uxbridge, Leicester, Oxford. They all came on the field with us at halftime for the photo, and we also want to give a little bit of a thanks to Bartlett for how supportive they were of the idea and allowing the extra time at halftime and the pregame that we did for all the leukemia patients. So
That's wonderful.
I'm Ryan Johnson. I'm also part of the soccer team. If you guys have nothing to do on Saturday, we have a home game at 1 o'clock, and it's our homecoming game, so it'd be nice if you guys could show. Thank you.
Wow, you guys are an impressive group. I thought you brought me to tears.
Yeah,
Ridiculous. But yeah, open it up to the committee. Do we have any comments for these guys, or it's just pretty amazing stuff? You guys really coming together, and you're going to make a difference. And Mateo must be over the moon happy that he's got your support. So,
And through the chair, to say that I think you've learned something through all of this that hopefully will last you through your whole life, right? That there's perspective on everything, right? And soccer means a lot to you, but it isn't the whole world, right? There are bigger things than all of you. And already for you to be able to express that and appreciate that is very impressive, because there are a lot of adults that don't learn that for a very long time. So nicely done and great job. Great job. All right. Well, you guys are going to walk up and shake everybody's hand, okay? And then you can go. All right?
Thank you. Thank you. Amazing. You guys are amazing.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Great job.
guys.
Awesome job.
Great job.
Awesome job. Thank you so much.
That was a wonderful
Nicely
game.
done. Great job. And please share with the rest of the team. Great job. Awesome. Awesome. Bravo. Bravo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Great parents,
everyone.
Caregivers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that was so nice.
It's great.
All right. Move on to acceptance of the minutes from September 18th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from September 18th, 2024.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is a vote. And we have our student reps here tonight, so I'll turn it over to you guys.
Thank you. So this week, we are a little bit over into a month of school, and at this point, sports teams and clubs have finally settled in the school year, and they're doing very well. October, we also wanted to recognize is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and sports have been contributing to wearing the color pink with some of their uniforms. I know football has specific uniforms for them, and so does field hockey. For soccer, we've been wearing pink captain's armbands, and then we also have pink ribbon in our hair. And then I'll turn it over.
Thursday, October 10th, which is tomorrow night, at 5:30 to 7 p.m., the high school is hosting an open house curriculum night for the parents and guardians of students to see their classes and meet their teachers.
Additionally, this week, the high school is excited to be preparing for the annual homecoming dance. This dance is Saturday, October 12th from 7 to 10. The students and staff have been participating in some fun theme days to work up some excitement towards the sense of the community and to create a fun environment for our homecoming. This week, we've had PJ Day so far. We've had Jersey Day, Pink Out for breast cancer awareness, and tomorrow is summer versus winter. And Friday is Auburn Colors Day.
On Friday, it's a half day. And before the weekend, there's going to be a homecoming pep rally, which is going to take place to send students off. There's no school on Monday for Indigenous Peoples Day. And the night before the dance is the homecoming football game. We expect the student section to be filled with excitement and enthusiasm for the football team, as this will most likely be high in attendance. And many clubs will have booths up at this game seeking support.
Great. All right. That was awesome.
Great.
Thank
Be a
you
busy
both.
weekend.
Yes.
The chair.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me Friday's a half day. I forgot.
All right. Well, thank you very much to both of you. That was a great report. All right. We'll move on to the superintendent report.
Thank you. So first up this evening is again our student spotlight. And this evening we're going to hear from some students from Auburn Middle School about their storybooks that they read to some kids at Bryn Mawr. So Mr. Carlson, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. We're so happy to be here tonight. So one of the things that we're doing at the middle school is we're asking teachers, to make a lot of engaging lesson plans, kind of make the curriculum come alive for our students. So we had, why don't you guys come on up here? Come on up. They don't want to see me. So what they did is they created children's storybooks to kind of explain the idea of Pangea, which is an interesting subject. And they brought it down to Mrs. Beverly welcomed us in, and we read to some kindergarten classes, and they're just here to share their experience with you. I think, Owen? They all volunteered, but...
Did you want to share a screen?
I do. Is it... No.
It's up there, but
Oh, you have it.
yeah. Let me grab it, Matt, because I'll have to share it on the Zoom.
It's right there. All right. Thank you very much. And perfect. So they all fought over who was going to talk. So kind of lead us off tonight. And if you can go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name. Oh, wait, sorry.
Don't know where.
That's good.
Oh.
Sorry, that's usually me.
I was watching you. I literally looked over. I said, "What did you do?"
Good evening, everyone. My name is Owen, and I'm here today to tell you guys a little about how this sort of project thing we did this week, which honestly was one of the best experiences, at least when it comes to school, in my whole life. So it started with what was essentially a very simple assignment. We were each instructed to make a 10-page book about the theory of continental drift by Alfred Wegener, and just the concept of Pangea in general. Everyone in our grade did the project, but a few of us, as you can clearly see, were selected to go over to the elementary school due to the outstanding work on these books, and we were able to read them to some of the kindergarten classes over at Bryn Mawr. And I definitely think that this was a really good idea, I felt like all of the students, whether from my grade or from the kindergarten, were learning and actively engaging with these stories that we made, and I can't speak for the kindergartners.
You were one once.
The of a seventh grader who helped with one of these novels, as you can see here. I think that this just goes to show what our education system is about. Taking concepts we learn in the everyday classroom and using them to do extraordinary things.
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent.
Very well said.
I honestly think if this were to be repeated, that it would be honestly really beneficial to the student body, and that's about all I have to say. Other than it was honestly really nice to interact with other people from this generation, and
Excellent.
Great.
Great job. Great. Yeah.
Great job.
So much good stuff.
And yeah, I do think projects and experiences like this are incredibly beneficial to people's learning. So that's about all I have to say. Thank you and good night.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
One last thing I want to say is the way that they worked with kindergarten students is, how did you feel about being a teacher for a day? How'd that go?
First of all, my name is Grayson. You can refer to me as Gray.
Hi, Gray.
Hi, Gray.
Or G if you're my siblings. So being a teacher for kindergartners, like I said, I have a couple younger siblings, one of which is right over there. And having experience with little kids and younger mindsets, I feel has really brought me to be like, I'm good for this position. I feel that's the best way I can phrase.
Little teacher.
I feel like that's the best way I can phrase it. Like we read stories to my little sister all the time, and my little brother, he has he has autism, so we're always trying to help him in any way we can. So getting to teach the kindergartners about a subject that we learned just really felt nice, and it was an engaging experience for, I feel, both all of us and the younger ones. And even they asked some good questions, as you can see on the board, like, why is India so different? And other times, they just wanted to ask other stuff, like one kid just said their dad's name was Derek. And that was it.
Kindergartner.
Like, they just wanted to we wanted to teach them a subject, and they wanted to tell us about their dogs. So we just kind of went with it, and I feel that was one of the better parts of the experience. 'Cause, like, hey, we just read you this book. Do you have any questions about it? And then, like, they'll share some questions, like, how did this happen? And will this ever happen again? But other times, they just wanted to be themselves, I guess.
That's great. That's great.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, I don't really think I have anything else to say.
That was wonderful. Good job.
Great.
I think that, speak for everybody else, it was a great experience, and we were very lucky to be at Auburn Middle School. So I think that's it. Everybody else good?
I have one question. Who's the teacher that gave this assignment?
Anybody want to speak to that?
It's an easy question.
I didn't say. Just two. Yep, all one.
And so the people that gave us
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. So the people that gave us the assignments were the two 7th grade science teachers. Here's Miss Nickerson and what was the other one's name?
Mrs. Berg.
Mrs. Berg.
Excellent.
honestly, this assignment was a really good call on their part.
Oh, good.
Well, I hope you told them that too.
Yeah.
That's a good thing for a teacher to hear.
Yes, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, sounds very enriching. It sounds like you guys made a difference in the lives of the kindergartners too. So,
At least I hope we did.
yeah, yes, you did.
Excellent.
No, we have anything else from the committee or
No.
anyone else
Awesome.
want to speak on behalf of the project?
Then we're going to have you come up and shake hands, okay, on your way out. All right. And we thank you very much for coming. Nicely done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Hi,
Nicely
babe.
done. Good to see you. Nice job.
You did a great
Nice
job.
job. Good to see you.
Great job. Good
Good
job.
to see you. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for coming.
Very nice.
Ooh, excellent illustration.
Hi, how are you?
Beautiful. Thank you for coming.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you.
Great. You're gonna
Thank you for coming. Nice job. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Beautiful.
Great job, guys.
Thank you for coming. Great job. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night.
Good. That's good for your next job.
Yeah,
He's gonna take over for you.
I'm actually gonna see if he'll stick around and do the
Yeah, yeah.
presentation tonight.
Perfectly described what it's like to be a kindergarten teacher.
Well done.
Good
Yeah, you might have some competition soon. Those two.
I just
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Good job.
Brilliant.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Molly.
Night,
Thank
girls.
you. Bye, girls.
We're letting all the kids go. We should make them stay.
I know.
Gosh, Ryan, that was awesome.
That was amazing.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Seventh grade, they did
Yeah,
really
very
wow.
articulate.
That was very good.
All righty. That was wonderful. All right, we'll move on to unfinished business.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have two quick items to report. So, as you've heard before, we are adopting the Sandy Hook Anonymous Reporting System. We're getting much closer to a rollout. At this point, everyone at the high school, middle school, and central office who are on the direct teams that would receive a tip have completed their training. Today, we had a meeting to talk about the training for the remaining staff, all of the students, communication to families, and all of that. So that's all going to be going out soon. On here, it says October 21st. Training won't start till October 28th. They had pushed off this meeting, and so now they're moving our whole timeline up a week. So information will be coming out very soon. So we're excited about that. We have also conducted 2 rounds of interviews for the next director of facilities. We had 8 candidates from the first round. We moved 2 candidates forward for round 2. And at this time, we have a verbal agreement with a candidate. He just got back from being out of the country. So I have communicated with him this week. And once we have a final signed contract, I'll share more information. But we're very happy with this gentleman, and I think we're going to be in good hands. Not the same hands as Mr. Fahey, but
there
good
is
hands
no Mr.
nonetheless.
Fahey.
So good hands nonetheless.
Well, he's the best, but yeah. All right. Okay, awesome. We'll move on to new business.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this evening, we have Mr. Field, our athletic director, and Mr. DeLongchamp, our high school principal, here just to give you a little bit of information. I'm not going to read all this because I'll let you guys just talk that through, about some change to the SWICL conference and what that might look like. So come on up. Yeah, be gentle.
Your own risk.
Yelled at.
It does crazy things sometimes.
Weren't those kids great?
Oh, my word.
All
Awesome.
of them.
Fantastic.
They were all awesome.
So,
Yep.
good evening, and it's so good to see you guys. So, we're gonna do this in a couple parts. I know that maybe you're not familiar with the Southern Worcester County League, but Auburn's been part of the Southern Worcester County League for quite some time. It was originally the Border Conference, of which I participated in. I don't know if any of you participated in, but that was back in the late 80s and 90s as a dandy, and then it obviously went to Rockets. Yeah. And so recently, I think sometime a little bit after COVID, we, MIA, took a look at how we have and how we conduct our tournaments. And they went to like a ranking system. And this ranking system was very, very similar to how some football leagues were ranked previous, and they thought it would be beneficial to do all of our sports in a similar type of format. So instead of by district, they would look at us as a school size across the whole state. Well, due to this, It's caused some competitive issues, and it's created some situations, some challenges for us as principals and athletic directors within the Southern Worcester County League that I'm going to let Kurt talk a little bit more about. But essentially, the Southern Worcester County League is pursuing joining a much larger league, like a super league, made up of roughly in the 30s. And Kurt will explain a little bit more about the details of all of that. I do believe, for all the right reasons, it's a good thing for Auburn. It's a good thing for our athletic programs. It will help us to create some competitive balance. I think it's awful hard, and I don't want to take Kurt's words. I think it's really hard for some teams who might be rebuilding their programs to have to play stronger teams, and at the same time, we're governed under these power rankings that make it really, really hard for our teams to compete after their regular seasons, because that's what they're looking forward to the most. But without stealing his thunder, it's all you.
Hi, everybody. Kurt Field. Nice to see everyone again. So like Dan said, right, in 2021, following the COVID year, the MIA went to this power ranking system, which a lot of people were in support of and some people didn't like. I'm new to Massachusetts. I'm still learning it myself. But getting coaches' feedback and stuff, basically the biggest reason that we would be leaving Swickle and going to this new Super League is because of competitive balance. You'll hear me talk about that a lot. But, Auburn being a member of Swickle, there's 12 schools, some very talented athletically, some that might struggle due to size, whatever the situation might be. If you look at our boys soccer team, they're a good example of, why this new league would benefit a school like Auburn. They're 8-3-1, so they're having a pretty good start to the season. But yet they rank 43rd in Division 3 because of the quality opponents that we play. And it's not like we chose to play these schools, they're in our conference. So the schools at the bottom of our conference who really struggle to even put a team on the field sometimes, we are required to play through league bylaws. And so, whether we beat them 4-0 or 8-0, it has no effect. It's just you're playing a team who's not very good. It's really gonna hurt you in the rankings. So ultimately, like Mr. DeLongchamp said, when those kids go to play in the postseason, they have a very low ranking because they've played weaker opponents. So basically, District 2 athletic directors have been working for over a year. So when Heidi Tatum was in this role, she started it from an Auburn perspective, and I've kind of taken it over, working with other District 2 athletic directors to basically realign schools between the Dual Valley, the Southern Worcester County League, the Colonial Athletic League, and the Inter-High Leagues. So those four to make this Super League, which we're calling CMAC, the Central Massachusetts Athletic Conference. Super original. But we're expecting anywhere between, we've had a couple meetings on it, about it, expecting anywhere from about 30 to 34 schools to be a part of this league. So obviously way different than a 12 school league like Swickle right now. So basically how it would work is to strike that competitive balance we're talking about. You basically take every sport. Let's take softball and girls soccer, for example. Let's say our girls soccer team is super strong and there's 30 teams that go into this new CMAC conference. Our girls soccer team might be in a subdivision. So you have girls soccer, and then you might have 5 subdivisions of 6 teams within that CMAC conference. We might be in Division 2, girls soccer, because we're strong, athletic. We would play schools similar caliber to us due to a power ranking system where you play schools just like you competitively. So the schools that struggle might be in Division 5. Schools who are rebuilding might be in Division 4. The really good schools are in Division 1, et cetera, et cetera. So it goes on a 2-year system of power ranking points, and that sets you up with your schools that you'll be playing twice. So it'd be the same thing like we do in Swickle. You play them once or twice, but this way it kind of eliminates some of the games where you're required to play, and it doesn't do anybody any good. So that's really what this was looking for. It's an updated way to increase sub-varsity level participation too. If you look at the Swickle right now in soccer, again, soccer is a good example. There's 4 or 5 schools which offer JV or freshman programs, and some who can barely field a varsity program. So naturally, those kids are missing out on games. It's hard to schedule those games, because and it's expensive, because you have to play them on off days. So if the varsity team's playing on Tuesday, you can't play a JV game on Tuesday. You'll have to play it on Wednesday. That means 2 buses. Those are expensive. So stuff like that. So this would really help in terms of those things as well. And it's a larger group, which is another, coaches seem excited about it. You're not playing the same schools over and over and over again, but they're still going to be in that conference, because it looks like, no one's put an official vote to paper yet, but looks like probably 11 of the 12 Swickle schools will look to join this conference. We just got sent an email today basically asking if we're in support of it or not. So, we'll get together, have a discussion about it. If we feel like it's right for Auburn, send our vote in, and go from there. But this has some serious traction. Heidi had mentioned to me when I took the job, she's like, it's being talked about. It's really ramped up over the last 3 or 4 months. They're looking to kind of start next year. So that's a lot of stuff to get in order in a pretty short amount of time. So I just wanted you guys to be aware. It's obviously important that we share our conversations, what's going on athletically in Swickle and within our district too, and just to keep you guys in the loop of kind of where we think we're going athletically. If you guys have any questions, I will do my best to answer anything you got.
Through the chair, a couple questions.
Yeah.
So in terms of travel for students, is there going to be like a farther distance for traveling probably?
Great question. Yeah, that is the biggest thing people have talked about as one of the cons about the bigger league, right? We are very, very lucky as Auburn being close to highways. We are very centrally located.
Okay.
It really won't hurt us to the extent that it could hurt other schools. Like if a Quabog does join the league, they're way out there. They might be playing in Narnia, it might be tough for those teams. And I know that is a talking point for a lot of ADs and principals in other schools. I don't believe it would be very much of an issue for us here. But again, we're lucky geographically from that standpoint. But that is a talking point about, that's something that needs to be considered, because transportation is the biggest part of our budget athletically, and asking for more money for that's all stuff that has to be considered.
And in terms of ranking, I'm just thinking like my basketball team, my junior year was great because we had great seniors.
Sure.
And then my senior year, not so much.
Yep.
So is it a 2-year? So like in that second year, if you're losing a whole bunch of athletes, are they then kind of at a deficit the following
Gonna
year?
probably stink for a year. It's gonna
Okay.
be hard. Yeah. So they thought it would be too hard to kind of realign all 30 teams every year, which I agree with. I think that would be really hard to do. But a 2-year cycle, I think, there will be situations where, you have on a basketball team, 9 seniors 1 year and you're very talented. And then you might lose obviously a lot of your production, and it might be hard that next year because you still would be in that division. But, if you're great for a year and then you really struggle for a year, the ranking will even out where you go for the next 2 years. So it's not like you're completely going to be behind the 8 ball. So there is some kind of equilibrium to it. 2 years, I think, is people were talking about 3 or 4. I'm like that wouldn't fly. So a 2-year reevaluation for the divisions, I think, is fair.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyone else have any questions?
Just have through the chair. What happens, so if out of the 12 Swickle schools, 10 leave, does and hypothetically, if we choose not to, are we stuck with just that other team that we have to play?
Correct. So we would have to go independent, which is what coaches have explained to me. Now you're talking about a ridiculous travel budget, because those schools in this CMAC conference will all play each other, and we can try to get games on the side. But from my perspective, that would be really hard from a scheduling standpoint, right? There's 18 soccer games in a season. We would be going in with 0. When you're in a league, you play those, we would play those 5 other schools twice, and then I only have to go find 8 other games to play. But if you're independent, it's like you got to get 18 games.
Basically, if a majority of schools go to this CMAC, then it would make sense for us too as well.
Correct. And I think that, like I've said, there are certainly questions and things that do need to be ironed out. But it just is trending in the direction that Swickle probably won't be around next year. And either we're in or we're out. And that's just kind of where we're at. And I do believe from a competitive standpoint, again, I'm new. I only know what I know. And I'm still learning. But from what I can tell, it's like there are some games that, sometimes the two teams shouldn't even be on the same field together. We do a very good job. Our coaches are great about understanding that sometimes, like the Bartlett game, for example, they're aware of the situations going on, and it doesn't make a difference. Like I said, if we win 4-0 or 8-0, it's going to hurt us in standings anyway. And then from the opposite perspective, there are some times we go out there and we shouldn't be on the field with whoever we're playing. It's just trying to eliminate those games, which really don't do anybody any good. Because there's no development going on necessarily. But it looks like either you're in or you're out and you're independent. So we could try to sneak our way into another league, potentially, but again, it looks like everyone around us is doing this. So I don't know what league that would be, but it wouldn't be very close.
Okay.
I could add just one thing. I would look at the league as just semantics.
Yeah.
I think, especially with the way the power rankings have gone, I feel like none of the teams within this group of 30 are teams that we probably haven't already played.
Yeah.
And for that, and even more so, several times.
Yeah.
Our schedule, like Kurt mentioned, our current schedule, we might get 8 to 10 games within our league, and then he has to go out and try to find 8 to 10 games depending on the amount of games per season per that sport. So we're still going to have that flexibility. If to talk, Megan, what you mentioned, if your team's really weak, so the core of those 8-10 games might be stronger games, but we have the ability to know, okay, the girls basketball program might be rebuilding. Those other 8 games or those other 10 games, we can try to find some opponents that are similar to us.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So we'll have that kind of flexibility within the league. The power rankings really shook things up. It made it really complicated for us.
I was just curious what would happen if we didn't join this league. So that answers that question.
But through principal conversation, we've tried to, I think that the work that got, it was hours and hours and hours of work, and trying to get 4 leagues to actually communicate with each other and actually have consensus. That usually doesn't happen. This is unprecedented. The MIA hasn't really seen anything like this. And we tried to model this after our larger league called the Midwalk, which represents a different part of our state, which is also made of a conglomerate of like 30 to 35 schools, but very, very similar, where our league is very, very diverse.
Yeah.
We have schools of size of like 200 to 300, and then we have Tantasco, which is 1,200.
Yeah.
Grafton, which has been with us all along, is moving to the Midwalk, so they're not going to be part of this. They're moving next year, and they were a school of 1,000. So you have Auburn that's roughly like in that 740-ish range, and a lot of the schools that we end up playing, 300, 400, 500, and as Kurt mentioned, just programs that are developing, struggling, rebuilding. And so within our league, our league almost hurts itself because some of the games that we play, if you have to go get on a bus knowing that you're not going to be competitive and you have to get on a bus 8 to 10 times, I can't imagine being that kid.
Yeah.
That's hard, right? And we can control and try to keep it fair and with the spirit of sportsmanship as much as we can. But it's tough when you're a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid.
Absolutely.
So that's our message.
It sounds like a no-brainer, to be honest. But yeah, and we'll support you guys, and especially if Dr. Chamberlain and Mr. Keller are on board. Then sorry, I almost said Dr. Keller. No, no, but yeah, I'm sure I don't want to speak for all of us, but I know personally, like I'm in full agreement. I think it sounds much more fair and more balanced.
Absolutely.
Can I just ask one
Yep,
question?
absolutely.
So just through the chair, just really quick, this would be for all of the sports. So this is the freshman team, the JV team, and the varsity team, or this is just?
This is all of our programs.
This is all of them.
All of our programs will go right into this.
All in. Okay.
Not our middle school.
Okay.
Right? Our middle school wouldn't.
That's its own thing.
Yeah.
But our high school programs would all go in.
Okay.
I think the only sport. The only sport where it might not fully fall under this new CMAC conference would be football. Football scheduling is just a different beast in terms of not every school has football. There's more co-ops in football, that type of deal. So I think football would potentially fall under a different structure.
Okay.
But this would also I'm a believer in like every sport should be treated equally, like publicity wise, you know, the amount of recognition each sport gets. And I think sometimes we forget about the cross countries of the world or the tennises of the world and those type of sports. And I think this would really benefit those teams as well. Like from a cross country perspective, we play we have so few meets because not every school in our conference, you know, runs and maybe a school shows up with 2 or 3 runners and it's like it's hard. That's hard. So I think when you open it up to a much bigger bowl to choose from, then it's only going to benefit those programs. I know from speaking with some of our coaches kind of off the record, they were, you know, very much in support of what this looked like. So
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Sounds like it saves money, and that's music to my ears. So,
Madam Chair, I did put that we look at a motion for this just to express support of the committee if this pans out. So if it turns out that the majority of Swickle is going, then it seems like it's the right choice to go. So I don't know if there's any interest in putting that forward.
yeah, definitely.
I'll make a motion to move the Central Mass Athletic Conference if a majority of the current districts agree to do so.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is a vote. So you have our dying support.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Taking the time to come
Yeah.
tonight.
Thank
Good night.
you. Thank
Have
you.
a great night.
And good luck.
Bye.
Thank you.
I feel like I just heard a bus.
All right, we'll move on.
All right. The next item is, I appreciate Mr. Bouvier being here this evening to talk about an update to our student privacy policies. So I'm going to let him come on up and talk about that a little bit. It's a big change, and I thought it was important for him to be able to share some information with you prior to you getting to kind of read through what we currently have and what he's proposing.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm going to be doing this all night.
Okay.
That's reality these days. Hi. Thank you. Well, we get to my presentation here. Tonight I'm here to present 3 policies to you, all technology related, but not entirely. Really, they're a bigger scope than just technology. 2 of them are brand new. One of them is a revision of our acceptable use policy. All of these are very important, especially these days. The technology policies that what I'm presenting today are these right here. A student data privacy policy. I'm sure everyone is familiar with privacy policies, a written security policy, and our responsible use. So the first 2 are new. The third one, the responsible use, updates our acceptable use, which is 10 years old. And a lot has changed. So in those 10 years. So it really does need a redo. But primarily what we're focused on here is staff and student privacy and safety and security. We've always cared about safety and security of our students and staff. We've always done what we can to keep their information safe. However, we've never really had a privacy policy that covered technology and then written policy that covered other instances where data might be exposed. And we definitely do not want to be in a position where data gets exposed in any fashion. We don't want to be in the news or any of that. And we know, everybody knows that identity theft is rampant. It's probably the one thing that we all worry about the most online these days. We're all double checking every email we get before we click a link, or every email from your bank. You know, you got to double check to make sure it's the right one. But there's a lot of other ways that you can protect privacy. It's not necessarily just a flat out identity theft. We're trying to protect privacy just from even less malicious forms. So, we're governed by these 4 laws. I know some of you will know some of these. FERPA is the big one. The Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act basically is related to, I'm sorry, I lost my place here. It's basically related to the student privacy and what parents are able to see and what we're able to do with data. It's very important. It governs pretty much how we interact with vendors and data that we're able to send. The Child Online Privacy Protection Act is a little different. That one has laws governing what children under the age of 13 can do online. For instance, technically, a child under the age of 13 shouldn't have a social media account. That's the type of things that it's trying to protect kids of that age against. And it has implications for us because a lot of our students are under the age of 13, but they still need Google accounts and they still need access to iReady and Wonders and Think Central and all of these programs that are central to our curriculum. So we have to deal with that law and protect our privacy while we're doing it. The PPRA, the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment, that one doesn't come up too much, but it's really related to protection of student data in relation to potential federal and state or local surveys or things like just these data grabs that a lot of even governmental agencies might be doing. So there are some rules related to that and what access parents have to that kind of data that's being taken and used. And then finally, IDEA, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with, which is related to special education and provides for equal access to education, but also has very strict privacy laws for the documents related to IEPs and things like that, and who has access to it. And a lot of what we're going to be talking about is who can actually access content and who cannot. So when we look at the student data privacy policy, which is the first one, it's a privacy policy if you've ever read one. It's fairly similar. It's a pretty boilerplate agreement. Most schools use something very similar. The purpose is to understand what is personal identifiable information and how that gets used. So that can be anything that is anything that can be reasonably utilized to identify a student in a combination. So it could be an address and a phone number, and you could say, well, I know who lives there. Well, that becomes identifiable information. So we collect a lot of that, and it's actually listed in the privacy policy, the information that we collect and what we do with it. But we have to protect that and make sure that we are limiting access to data like that. We also have to be aware of all the data we collect and how we use it. We have to know where it all is and what we're sending to each vendor and what we're sending to the state and how it's being utilized. And even beyond that, what happens to it in the event that we stop using these vendors. So there's a lot of rules related to that. And those are the requirements for third-party use and the established process for questions and reporting violations. Obviously, if someone thinks that there's an issue, there has to be a way for them to report it to us. So that's the student data privacy. The trick of it, though, the hard part is the agreements that we have to build with vendors. We have to know what every vendor that we use that takes student data or staff data is doing with it. And we should be developing agreements with each vendor and outlining exactly what they're taking, how they're using it, and what they do with it. Do they sell it? Do they, we have to know everything about how they're utilizing our data. These agreements are very important to this process. You can imagine there's a lot of programs across all curriculum and all of our grade levels that are using student data. Almost everything is in the cloud. So to go down this road means we're going to be chasing these for a while. The good news is that we are part of the Massachusetts Student Data Privacy Alliance, which was started in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's part of a national organization that really spearheaded the Student Data Privacy Initiative in schools. They have lawyer-vetted templates for us to use. They have a database of all of their members and all of the agreements that they've gone out and gotten, so we can say, hey, we want to see what PowerSchool's doing with all of the other vendors. We can go in and see and say, well, PowerSchool, you signed it for Grafton and blah, blah. You're going to sign it for us too. So in the event that we can't get a data privacy agreement, then we have to be very transparent with parents about why the students are using this piece of software, why it's important, and what data is being sent, and offer parents the opt-out. So it's a lot. It's a lot to manage, but it's very important to keeping everybody safe.
Do you mind if I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Sorry, through the chair. Have we ever had to have an opt-out?
We've never we never really had this privacy policy before. This is relatively new to education. I mean, we really wanted to have this in place right around the time COVID hit. And obviously everything went kind of crazy at that point and kind of remained crazy for a few years. So we started talking about it again last year and circled back to it. We have always notified parents through the acceptable use policy that they have Google and exactly what they're doing through Google. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But as far as the other programs, no, we never really have, and we need to. And we will find a good way to be transparent about everything that is available to students. On the other side, this does create sort of a problem for teachers who want to use programs and want to get excited about a new application. But we have to go through this process and vet every single application or website that they're going to provide student data to before they can use it. Yes.
Can I just ask one question too? Sorry,
Sure.
Before I forget. What if a child or parent refuses to sign the acceptable use policy? Do we have a backup plan?
Well, this is the acceptable use policy itself.
Yeah.
Okay. In that instance, they technically shouldn't have access to the technology until they do. So it's never really been a big problem for us. So, and you'll see, we've sort of changed that. That other document was ugly and long, and we've made that, I think, a lot more friendly. So ultimately, we have to get everyone there because so much of what we do is online these days. There's really almost no way around it. So, and even if we weren't one-to-one, it would still be educational curriculum software that we'd be up against. So student data privacy is one thing. It's actually fairly focused around online data and keeping that safe. The written information security policy is a whole nother beast in general. So this one is also dealing with security and confidentiality of personal information, but not just online. A lot of our data is still on paper, and how are we protecting that data? And also all the online stuff. So we have to protect against any reasonably anticipated threats or hazards to the security integrity of such information. So that could be having all medical records locked up in a file cabinet so that they're not accessible to a custodian that's cleaning the room, or any opportunity for anyone that just happens to be around to see any of this data. So there's a lot that goes along with this. A lot of it is just looking at our practices and how we do things and training people to be more cautious of that. It could be that you go into a classroom and a teacher has just left their computer on and logged in, and Power School is up. And
That's something more common. So like medical records and our student records and all of those things, those are locked, right? Like that's common practice. But we do have to be more conscious of the tech piece of things, like leaving a computer up where, a student might walk
up to it.
Yeah.
all right. So this covers electronic, it covers paper, and on basically any other records containing personal information. So there's a lot to this one. So it defines how our data is collected, used, destroyed, which is an important one, and managed within the district. A lot of our data we have to keep for 7 years. Some data we might have to keep for longer than that. And in many cases, we should be destroying data at the end of 7 years so that it is safe at that point and not an opportunity in our district for things to fall into the wrong hands. We only collect personal information of students and employees that we need, and be sure that we're not collecting anything that we don't need to. So anything that is related to the hiring process or the registration process and everything that we have to do to educate a student or related to somebody's job, but really nothing else beyond that. And access to records is obviously limited to the people that need to see it. And that's a big one, especially in schools. And I get asked all the time, hey, can I just get admin access because it's a lot easier for me to find a kid? Well, no. So you can have access to the kids that are your kids, but you have no reason to see any information about a student that is not your student at this particular time. So those rules, having those down on paper, make our jobs a lot easier to be able to say, well, that's against policy, and really these are the reasons why. So. All right, so the WISP, as it's broken down to, defines these types of risks: internal risks, internal security, electronic and paper, like we were talking about, logging out of equipment, not leaving stuff lying around, external risks, including technology. That means ensuring, and I guarantee we do this, but firewalls are up to date, security patches are installed. We actively scan email for threats and all content for threats. So I think we do a good job about that. It also includes password policies, which we have to get a lot better at getting everyone to change passwords on a more regular basis. It is a huge pain for IT because everybody changes their password, and then Monday morning, everybody's forgotten their password. But we have to. We're looking at some ways to make that a better.
Maybe don't do it on a Friday.
Yeah, we're looking at ways to make it easy for people to change their own passwords. But also, we've had models for student passwords which have been easy but not safe, and we're looking at getting beyond those too, because we need to make sure all students are safe. So, and then daily operational protocols, you can read that. We've talked a little about that, but they're all in this policy. It's a big, big policy. That brings us to responsible use. So this one's different. This is how people behave and act on the internet or on our devices. This is a change for us. We used to call it acceptable use. This was what we accepted for your behavior online. It was long, it was boring, it was impossible to remember. We decided that moving towards responsible use was a little more friendly and put more of the onus on the person signing the agreement to understand that I understand that these are the things how I'm supposed to act and how I'm supposed to interact with the technology, and I know that I'm responsible for that instead of just a list of no-nos. So I think it's a lot friendlier and easier to read, and it makes it a little more personal to the people reading it. I mean, granted, most kids, they're not going to read it anyway, but we'll do our best to make sure that they do. Every time they log into a computer, they come up on the screen and they have to click I accept. So so at least it's there, and we're taking our chances and doing our best with it. So again, the previous AUP was 10 years old. It actually said you're not allowed to connect iPods to our network. We thought we didn't need that anymore. Didn't mention cell phones at all, really. So a lot has changed in our technology landscape in 10 years. We've evolved significantly. We're iPads over desktops in 90% of student interactions with technology. Only once you get to the middle and high school and you're in a technology class would you interact with a Windows machine. That's a whole other level of security. There's different things. We have to do different things for Windows. iPads are very secure out of the box. So our iPads give us more internal protections for kids. Apple is very secure and very conscious of making sure that they're protecting the privacy of their users. We have more capacity to manage those devices and basically allow students to access or not access any single part of that iPad we don't want. No FaceTime, we don't need that. We can shut off sending of files to one another. We can do all of that stuff, and it gives us real strong control of the devices to make sure that they're being used primarily for education. It also means that a lot of things we said you couldn't do on a computer in the past, they really can't even do anymore. It's not even an option for them. The one-to-one environment makes their devices more personal too. They're their device. They're going to keep this for 4 years. So they're more apt to treat it carefully and kindly and make sure that it's in good working condition because it's what they're going to use. If they scratch up the screen till it's not readable, that's what they've got to deal with. So that, I think, helps with defining some of the more responsible uses and not needing to put so much into the policy. We also now have real strong viewability of teachers into devices so that they can see that students are using their devices in a proper manner. So teachers can basically see any iPad that's sitting in front of them when they're in their classroom, and only when they're in their classroom, because otherwise that would be a privacy violation. So we're able to do a lot of these things, and we have an iPad agreement that covers a lot of behaviors for the iPads as well that everybody signs as part of their registration. So there's a lot here. And if you want to go to the next slide, our security in general has improved dramatically. Our district policies on our Windows machines are limited. Where we once used to say you can't plug a USB stick into that hasn't been scanned. Well, now you just we scan those automatically. There's just more automation, more built-in protections as things have evolved. Our web filtering and our content filtering is significantly light years ahead of where we were when we wrote this policy. It continues to improve. Wireless security is better. We have better wireless networks there that are more protected for our kids, and our firewall is really strong. And we have a very security conscious network administrator who is always looking for ways to make sure that the district is safe and secure and that nobody is getting into our network that isn't supposed to be here. So all of those things sort of mitigate the need for a real long and lengthy acceptable use policy. We had to take some things out when we were going through this. I had mentioned before, we used to have a part where we said that we notified parents about what Google they each had. Well, that's not in here anymore. That's going to be as part of the student data privacy, and we're going to be publishing what's available at grade levels and what data is going to be used. So we're not going to put that in here. It's also a lot harder to change this policy. So to come back and make those kinds of changes if we needed to doesn't seem to make sense when it's also covered by the other one. We removed the previous section 3 where it says there was a large list of things we assumed no responsibility for. It's pretty much redundant. I mean, when you look at it, it really wasn't necessary. We removed section 4 regarding the reliability of a data connection, where we made no promises for the reliability of the data connection. Well, I do make promises for that. We absolutely want our data connection to be reliable. So that didn't need to be there. I think anyone can tell you, most of the time, I'd say we're probably up 95% of the time. And if we're down, it's an internet thing that something weird happens. So we'll do a pretty good job of that. There was a section about the right to amend the policy. Obviously, that seems a little silly. All policies can be amended by the district. We just have to do it here. And then section 10 about restitution. They're all iPads. That's all covered in the iPad agreement. So we were just trying to streamline this. It made sense to remove those sections. If you want to go to the next one. Some of the things we added, we didn't have to add a lot. We were able to move things around, and I feel like we're covered 95% of what was in the other one. But we added a few things. We added a statement about AI technology. It's a short and sweet at this point, but basically, if you're using AI, you're still bound by our policies, and that's the way that the overarching theme, I think, when we talk about AI is it doesn't matter if you're using AI and you're plagiarizing. We tell you you can't plagiarize, you're still plagiarizing. So it's just another technology or another way to do it. It doesn't make it any better. So ensuring that AI is covered was something we want to do. We're obviously going to spend a lot of time with AI forever because it's just going to keep coming and understanding it, and but we will. Greater focus on privacy. There's a lot in there about keeping privacy safe, and clarification on personal technologies. We used to discourage people from taking technologies such as phones and iPods into the district, but now there's no way around it. Now, we're not saying what students can do with iPhones and cell phones in their classrooms. That's the principal's decision. What we're saying is that if you take them in, you have to connect them to this network, and so that we know that from a security standpoint, we're covered. We don't want somebody taking in a device and putting it on a network where student data is and potentially compromising that. We have certain networks that personal data should be connected to. So that's really what we're doing with that. I know each school looks at how cell phones are used on their own, and that's where it should be decided. Really, it should be at the principals and with the staff. So we don't make that determination, and we will just add this to the online registrations that we do, both the returning and the new student registrations, so that they can be signed off on every year. When they go through those processes, staff will sign them off as they do on their regular beginning of the year package of agreements. So again, here's just in summary, we really do spend a lot of time thinking about protecting students and staff, and adding the privacy layer makes sense. And I think the policies make a lot of sense, and they will not be easy for us for sure, but they are absolutely necessary, because we can't put any of our students' data at risk. We can't put our staff data at risk. We have to be sure that we're doing all we can to keep it safe.
All right, awesome. Great. Thank you for that. Do we have any questions? Any more questions?
I have just one. Can you just clarify something? I don't think I heard you correctly.
Yeah.
So if I'm a student and I have my cell phone and I don't need Wi-Fi, I have all the Gs and all the data. When I walk into the school, my phone won't work unless I
it will.
hook to the Wi-Fi? Okay.
We can do nothing about the Gs.
Okay.
So there's no way for us to legally block that.
Okay.
So that's why I know in the high school they have rules about putting your phones in the back of the room in a shoe caddy so that they're not in your hands while you're using them. If they want to connect to Wi-Fi, they have to connect to our guest network, which is the most restrictive network we have as far as what they can access. They definitely don't want to be on it, but there's really nothing we can do about a personal cell phone plan while it's in district.
Okay.
Sort of taking the device out of a kid's hands.
Right.
So unfortunately,
Which we don't want to do.
every school wishes we could.
Right.
Yeah.
It would make things easier, but we can't mess with FCC frequencies. They get mad.
You speak from experience.
I just wanted to because you were like, you have to log on to the thing. So I didn't know if the students had to agree if they had their cell phone or whatever, or I just.
No, they
Okay.
said how they use their phones in the in the schools is up to the principals and the
Right. Okay.
teachers, and we just want to be sure that they actually can't connect it to any network but guest. If they were in our school, they don't know the passwords. Those are well kept secrets, but they don't even know the password that connects their iPad to the network. That's all hidden from them too. So, but yeah, cell phones are a challenge for sure, and they will continue to be a challenge until the next thing comes out, whatever that is. But it's also watches and a billion other things now that are coming in the doors. So even trying to define them would be a kind of silly.
A new one every day.
Yeah.
So the reason, to have Mr. Bouvier here this evening, just to kind of give you that overall view, because the policies that are included, there was a lot of information. So if there are questions, obviously we'll go through the 3 reads with this, like we do all policies. But it's a pretty big update, particularly because some of this was so old, to make sure we're doing the right thing. So.
And again, most of the
Thank you.
policies are pretty standard. You'd probably find them similar in most districts. So I don't know that you'll find too much in there that hopefully you won't want to change, but it is all up for
That's a
debate.
lot of work.
Yeah, I know. What a
It's a lot.
tedious process you've been going through to do this.
Through the chair.
Thank you.
Steph, I think what he would meant by personal devices, I got the vibe like teacher computer, like a teacher bringing
be
their own
that too.
computer in. Like, because I know that sometimes I'll bring my own personal computer in and they'll say like, you must connect it to our network so that the same rules apply.
Right.
So I
it was
can't
just more
access,
of
like, yeah.
I'm Susie Q and I'm 16 and this is my cell phone and I can have it. Like,
Yeah.
Some of those.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's not for the majority. It's just, if this is to be put in the back of the classroom, are the G's the issue? You know what I mean? That's
Right. And then,
We're good. I got
It
it.
is also
It's
for
in my
staff.
brain now.
It is definitely for staff because we don't know what somebody is bringing through the door and connecting to our network. That we want to make sure that if they are doing it, that it is on a network that is separate and secure from everything.
From
that is
everything
important.
else.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much
Oh.
for doing this and for being here right now. It's a long day for you, I'm
Yes,
sure.
and wish your wife happy anniversary.
Oh yeah.
Oh my word! Becky, you're so mean.
Wasn't an important one.
I didn't know until yesterday.
You need to stop and get her flowers. Flowers on the way home.
I'm sure she's watching.
Maybe
right?
some chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't get it, so.
He told me yesterday.
So will you still be working for the district when we update in 10 years? Yeah.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
You still have time to go out for dinner.
Send flowers now. So bad.
25. Yeah, it's a good one.
Big one.
All righty.
All
Well,
right.
that was very informative. Good. Yeah. Thank you.
The next item is October 1st enrollment update, which we do at this time every year, just to give you an idea of where our overall enrollment stands in the district. And as you can see from the 2024 column in blue, we are at 2,507 students versus last year at 2,509. So we are down 2 from last year. You can see below that, there is a year-by-year comparison starting in 2002. And if you look back, that kind of 2017 to 2019 were our highest enrolled years, which were around 2,600. So we are down significantly from that and continue to be. Our out-of-district students are at 17. We had a couple of kids move in who came to us with from being in a outplaced. So we're working on that. We have 75 school choice students currently, and new enrollments over for the school year 329. So earlier in this year I told you we had like 200 and something new registrations. Yeah, that's it's just been, now that gets offset by the number of withdrawals, obviously, leaving us at the overall total. But yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions about any of that.
Through the chair, the dash, so like 46-40, is that the different sides of town?
Yeah, I was wondering.
With the slash?
Yeah.
Boy, girl.
Oh, okay.
Boy, girl.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yep, boy, girl.
I wasn't sure.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So we have a lot more boys than
Yeah.
Swiss.
That's gotta be rough. Dr.
Yeah.
Lopez. Poor Dr. Lopez.
Dr. Lopez.
So, and we'll keep our eye on this if things change. I did just receive the email from NESDEC. Every year we have them do an enrollment study. They do that for free because we're a member of NESDEC. So I have to send them a bunch of information and then they'll send it back. And when I get that, I'll share it with the committee.
And we have 96 in the preschool, it looks like. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
Through the chair, why do you think our enrollment is so far down from like 2017, 2018, 2019?
Yeah, so I don't have a great answer for that, but what I do know is that most districts across the state are experiencing the same.
So it's just a
So
trend.
where the students are going, I'm not sure if it's just birth rates are down. NESDEC may be able to shed some light on that when we get it, but it is not unusual.
In other districts, it's the same way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like
Yep.
ebbs and flows, I
Yep.
guess.
Yep.
At least it's not just us.
No,
It's, that's good.
Well, I think this is got to be COVID, because it's the COVID kids that were born in 20 are now preschool, right? Some of them. So I think everybody was shut in,
It could be. I'm sure there are a bunch of reasons. But at least I know that like our facilities are good as far as the, space wise and that kind of thing.
And
So
every child has a seat to sit in.
every child has a seat to sit in, yes, especially at lunch.
Good.
Yep. Yep. Every child has a seat.
Wonderful.
And keeping with the theme of enrollment, the next sheet in your packet is an enrollment summary of our newly arrived students who we continue to accept. And I will tell you, this is of October 1st. It is now not accurate. This number changes every single day, sometimes by 2, sometimes by 5. So as of October 1st, we had 51 total students who we would consider newly arrived. They do tend, we were told that they thought it would stabilize once school year started. It has not. Many of the students who came to us early last year are now reaching the limits of the time that they can spend being supported where they are. And so they're being moved out into more permanent housing. And so that's all being phased in. They didn't kind of do everybody on a certain, if you came on this date, you move out on this date. They're rolling that in. So we're seeing a constant stream of folks who are moving out to more permanent housing, but those rooms are being filled because it's not all what we considered, what would be considered migrants. There are some folks that could be a domestic violence situation that has caused them to be homeless, and they've been moved into the shelter. So it's a moving target. Mr. Walton he is our homeless liaison. He is out straight with this every day. He is there nearly every day, whether enrolling or helping a family to withdraw. So,
Through the chair, the families that are leaving, are they leaving to other towns generally?
Yes.
So, okay.
yes. And so in some cases, particularly now this time of year, we've encouraged folks, right, because they have the right to stay in their home district. If let's say they were with us all last year. They have the option to stay with us, but when they were moving at the start of the year, we've encouraged them, no, move to your new community, go to the school, get involved there, start to meet, the community that you're more permanently going to be settled with. Yeah. And most have done that. So, it's just tricky because they do have the right to stay, which is familiar and safe, but then you build in the fact that now a student could have a 30 or a 45-minute or an hour-long bus ride and those kind of things, and they're not getting embedded into the community where they should now be more permanent. So most of them are choosing to stay wherever they go to.
So they're still considered homeless. They're just in a more permanent.
Correct.
Homeless. Okay.
Yeah.
Those poor kids, though.
Yeah.
It's just a lot.
It is. It is. And so I've also provided you with an update of the funding received to date. So you'll see 3 dates in the middle box in green. December 15th, March 1st, and June 25th of 2024. So total to date, we've received $526,548 from the funding that came along with having these newly arrived students. This is a very shaking number, the number for December of 2025, because of the number of move-ins and move-outs, because we only get the money based on the days that students are actually enrolled. So I gave my best estimate with what we had for account as of today, as of October 1st when I did this, being approximately around $195,000 that we'll still receive. And then in the right-hand box, gave you a little bit of a summary of things that we have spent some of this money on last year. We did get a number of supplies. We had to buy a number of iPads, which ran us into some money to have those. We did last year pay our 0.6 EL teacher because she was traveling from school to school to help all of the EL tutors with the influx of the new students, as well as for transportation. So that was spent last year. This year, we have 2.8 EL tutors that we're paying. Parent Square that I spoke of the last time, I included this here. I did apply for a separate grant to fund Parent Square, but in the event I don't get it, I wanted it to be included here that we would use this money for that because it does provide all the translation, so it qualifies for that use. We will use, a substantial amount of money on transportation, and again, 2 additional support staff for kids who need extra support. So that gets us to what we've received to date, what we've expensed to date, and what's remaining. So that remaining number does not include the 195 that we're include 195,000 that we anticipate getting in December. So we have had a number of conversations about how this money should be used. We certainly believe that a good chunk of it should be used to offset transportation, which will help us out. But, I'm working with Mr. DeLongchamp around some tutoring and credit recovery for students at, particularly at the high school for credit recovery. Some of them have come to us with some credit, right? But if they stay, they're not ultimately going to have enough to graduate. So if we can give them a little bit of a boost with either some after school or in the summer kind of thing, so we may use some of it for that. Out of district transportation, we do get reimbursed for that, but we still have a number of students where we're cost sharing with different districts because of the transient nature of these kids. And so while we get reimbursed for some, we don't get reimbursed for all. So we need some of this money to pay for that. And we're also considering some after-school programming at the elementary schools for these students as well. They do now, many of the families there do have their own transportation, so we think that potentially we could work it out that they stayed after school. We may be able to work with the family to say, can someone give them a ride home at the end of the day? So that's still in process, but those are some of the ideas we have for the use of some of these funds. So we'll see the next steps we take, but I don't know if anyone has any questions.
So the 2 support staff for next year's expenses?
That's this year.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, never mind. Okay.
Yep, that's this year. And those are for 2 students with some significant needs.
Yeah, okay.
Beyond EL needs.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right, any questions for Dr. Chamberlain? No? All right, looks good.
A complicated process.
Yes, very. And it's, like you said, a moving target, so just ride it out.
I also shared with you, back on September 26th, the town offered a kind of a little seminar on the open meeting law, and they provided, there's a larger packet and then a smaller packet in your packets. So I made copies for you to review. They did record the meeting and encourage all committee members to review that and then let them know that you viewed it so that they can mark you down as a check. There was a great deal of discussion around discussions between committee members and what's appropriate and what can happen and what's considered a deliberation and what's not. So I urge you to review that so that we remain in compliance with all of the open meeting laws as we are required to be.
Through the chair, what do I have to tell the town clerk that we watched it?
Yes,
Okay.
go tell her, yeah.
Yeah, you can email her or whatever, but,
Okay.
and the supplementary packet that I gave you, you're gonna see in here, I marked, see supplementary packet, because it supersedes something that's already in here.
There is a certificate of receipt. I think they probably want this filled out and given to the town clerk. It was in this, that Beth gave us, the packet.
Yeah, I think on page 36, there's a section that says no longer applies. It's section 29.10. I wrote it in ink on this, in the side, on the left side of the page. That's what the supplementary packet takes the place of.
And you should probably rip this off and sign it.
After you've watched the video.
Yeah,
Video
yeah.
first.
And I would highly recommend watching the video and maybe flipping through as he goes. It makes a lot more sense and
Yeah.
it's a lot more, it's not entertaining, but it's better than just reading this. So. It's like a root canal. No, it was fine.
And my original copy. Don't you worry.
Oh, good.
I'm gonna laminate it.
Yes. No, but it's good information to have and it's a good refresher. So definitely take the time to watch and quote that. All righty.
All right, the next item has to do with virtual participation in school committee meetings. So what came out of this open meeting law was the knowledge that several town committees have opted to no longer use Zoom to have virtual participation. And I know that this has been, a conversation, and so I put it to the committee. It does seem like you can take the vote if you choose not to have us sign on to Zoom for the meetings, that we can do so. There was some discussion that night about how, it could potentially, particularly I think around the select board meetings, I don't think they'll ever get rid of it because they feel some of their members participate virtually, and they do have townspeople who attend. So it's quite frankly, either way for me, so I put it to continue or discontinue. I just thought that this was an appropriate time since it came up at that meeting for this committee to consider if they wanted to continue to do that or not.
All right, I'll open it up for discussion if there is any, and I'll beg you to please get rid of this.
Through the chair, if I could say, I think we should discontinue. I think that it is proven that we've had no activity on the Zoom, and the one time we did, it was not good.
Right, yeah.
And I just feel like if there is a concern or there is an issue, the door is open and they can come on in.
Yep, and we are televised, and Rich agrees with you.
Correct.
Through the chair, I agree with with Brooke because I think that like no one's on now. So, you know, like as long as we keep it televised and as long as people can still watch it, like we've only ever had people come once or twice, you know.
Well, Zoom, we've had people, but
During teacher negotiations was the most we've ever had.
yeah.
But the door's open.
Yeah,
Anyone
but
wants to.
we're a nice crew of people. We enjoy a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Fun
And,
night.
You know what? This still has to be publicly posted. None of that changes, right? The public posting and, you know, alerting people when there's a meeting, that doesn't change. So
I do
it's really
agree that
just
we
the
should
Zoom piece of this.
And honestly, it opens us up for a lot more liability. If someone is zooming in and they can't hear or see, we could get fined for that. So it's just one more thing to think about.
They did talk about that
Yes,
during the
yeah.
meeting, that when you have technological issues, you're supposed to suspend the meeting until the Zoom portion, if you have chosen to do this, offer this remotely, that has to be working in order to continue the meeting.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work, you have to reconvene at another time.
Correct.
So that's a nice threat for you. All right. And
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
To discontinue the option of remote participation in school committee meetings.
I'll second.
Second.
okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Should I shut it down now?
Yep.
Turn it off.
It's that last little bit of COVID that we still have, like dragging. We drag it on.
Random COVID.
Oh, it's like enough already. Yeah.
Too stressful.
I know it is. It's just another thing for
And we can
Mr.
take out
Keller
that
to
lovely
deal with.
thing like we are being.
Oh, you don't even
Deducted on-
know.
She's already taken it out.
Oh, it's yes. Yeah. All right. That just made my night.
That's good. And just I share with you an email that Ms. Pulver, with her enthusiasm, received from the DESE related to a Massachusetts school wellness coaching program. So she's found out that she's going to be able to participate in this program with Allison Doak from DESE, will be her coach. And so we'll finally have an up-to-date wellness policy. She may be looking for volunteers, but we are really out of date with what we have. And so they provide all of this coaching and templates and structure and exactly what needs to be included. And she was it's unusual that you hear someone's happy to be involved with the DESE kind of process, but she is very happy. And I do think it's going to really work to the benefit of our students and our staff. So just wanted to let you know, because she was
Yes.
super happy about
All right.
that.
Thank her for us, definitely.
And finally, one last reminder about parent-teacher conferences. So parent-teacher conferences will be held on November 19th, but only for grades pre-K to 8. Pre-K to 8 will have a half day of school that day. Students in grades 9 through 12 will have a full day, with them now having their curriculum night tomorrow night, which the girls talked about. So a little bit of a different scheduling change. And again, there is a half a day of school this coming Friday and no school on Monday for Indigenous Peoples Day. So that was just kind of a little reminder. I have put it out in my notices. I know principals have too, but just thought I'd put another plug out there.
All righty. All right. Thank you for that report. We'll move on to Mr. Keller's teaching and learning report.
All right. Well, I have to say, I kind of wish that I could have gotten Owen and Grayson to stick around to help
Oh,
me
my
with this
word.
presentation, but
Right?
They were fabulous.
They should take my place.
Your superintendents right there, right?
I
Dr.
can't wait to
Chamberlain.
see what comes. I can't wait.
So tonight I'm going to talk about MCAS results. We've spent a good amount of time as administrators having conversations, looking through the data. So I'm going to share with you some kind of high-level information that we've gleaned from this. This is something that we look at throughout the year, but certainly right now as we're focused on things that we did well, things that need some improvement. So first, and I mentioned this last year when I presented, MCAS is important, but it is not the be-all, end-all. It is just one picture in the photo album of what a student does and how schools and our district perform. But it does give us some significant, important information. I'll start with statewide results. You may have seen some of the headlines that came out when the MCAS results were made public. It was not great news at the state level. The state saw declines in ELA in all grade levels. There were a lot of plateaus there were plateaus in all grades in math, with one exception, that was grade 3. Science was a bright spot. They saw across the state improvement in grades 5 and 10 and lower achievement in grade 8. You'll see as we look at our science data, we in terms of science, that was definitely a bright spot in all grades for us in grades 5, 8, and 10. But overall, we're not as a state making the progress that we were hoping to try and get back to those pre-COVID levels. Let's see here. Another, I don't have a vote, but I'm very excited by the Zoom decision. As you can see, I struggle with navigating that. So just a little MCAS 101. Students receive 2 scores on MCAS. They receive a score on their achievement levels on math, English, and science when they take that. And they are rated as not meeting expectations through exceeding expectations. And you can see what the numerical scores, what those are that go along with that. Students in grades 4 through 8 also get a student growth percentile. That's 1 through 99, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it compares them to peers across the state who scored similarly in their previous 2 years. We will go through that. Also, I want to say tomorrow, all schools, so Swanson Road, the middle school, and the high school are sending MCAS reports home. So those will be sent out and dropped off at the post office tomorrow.
I'm wondering when that was going to happen.
Yes, that will come out tomorrow along with parent guardian reports. So we'll start with English language arts, and I talked earlier about achievement and growth. So we'll look at achievement right now. So first, this is grades 3 through 8. And despite the fact that at the bottom it says Swanson Road, that was just because I was in the Swanson Road area, but when I was going on and getting this data. But it is grades 3 through 8 data. You would see the same data if I was using middle school to select this. So the graph on the left is Auburn, grades 3 through 8. The graph on the right is the state. So a couple things to note here: the blue, the bar on the left that's blue is those students who are exceeding expectations. Green is meeting expectations. Orange is partially meeting expectations, and red is not meeting expectations. So when we look at this, often what we do is we look at exceeding expectations and meeting expectations and say, how are we doing? What percentage of our students are meeting and exceeding expectations? And you add those two bars together and you get 47%. One thing that looks strong, or two things that look really strong in here, is one is the state is averages 39% meeting and exceeding, and we're at 47% meeting and exceeding. So we are performing well above the state, and that is very encouraging. And then if you also look at the red bar, which is not meeting expectations, we are below the state level pretty considerably in the number of students who are not meeting expectations. An area for growth, of course, is, and I'll talk about this a little bit, and you'll see this in a couple different graphs, is we want more students in this blue area exceeding expectations. So that's something that we're talking about, having conversations. How can we push students ultimately, push students from not meeting expectations into partially meeting, moving students from partially meeting into into meeting, and then push some of these students in meeting into exceeding expectations. So that's ultimately the move that we're looking to make in all these. So next we'll look at grade 10. And again, same thing, Auburn on the left and the state on the right. We had 65% of our students meeting and exceeding expectations compared to the state at 57. Also a positive trend is seeing that we have 7% compared to 12% at the state not meeting expectations. So a similar trend in that regard. And then again, really needing to improve the number of students in exceeding expectations. That is certainly a goal and a conversation that we've had with Ms. LeBaume and Mr. DeLongchamp at the high school. Questions on ELA?
Through the chair, just out of curiosity, so that not meeting expectations, 7% or 12%, are those the kids that if they never passed would not get a high school diploma?
Correct.
Okay, so the partially they do, it's just the red.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Good question. All right, we'll move on to math. So again, looking at achievement, and this is our math performance. So grades 3 through 8 on the left, the state on the right. And again, although it says Swanson Road at the bottom, it is Swanson Road and the middle school. So the combination of exceeding and meeting is at 49% compared to the state at 41%. We also are below the state in terms of our percentage of students not meeting expectations, which is positive. And again, a similar trend that I talked about in both previous graphs is the desire to push more students into exceeding expectations, because in that we are below the state level. So that is something that is certainly a goal of ours. I'll move to grade 10. A positive chart here, pretty much all around. Well above the state in terms of exceeding and meeting expectations at 61% compared to the state at 48%. You can see that we have more students in exceeding expectations than are at the state level, and we are significantly below the state in terms of number of students not meeting expectations. So this was a very encouraging piece of data here at the high school. Questions on math?
Fabulous.
It just seems like we need to work with that bubble group.
Yeah.
That like the green and yellow that need to kind of just everyone needs to just shift up.
Exactly.
A little bit,
Yes. Yep. All right. I mentioned this earlier, but science is definitely an area that we spent a lot of time having conversations about last year, and we definitely saw some positive results showing here. So, meeting and exceeding are at 61%. Are 65% are meeting and exceeding, and that is significantly above the state, which was at 42%. And then you can see the number of students not meeting expectations in Auburn was 6, and I think that's 20 at the state level.
26. Oh yeah, 20.
I didn't bring my glasses. And so overall, just very pleased with our performance of our students and, of course, our teachers. And, you know, one of the things that I think it's important to say is it's not just grade 5 teachers, grade 8 teachers, but it's everybody throughout the system. And it's not just those grade levels where MCAS is tested in English and math either. It's what we do as an entire district. And I will move now to grade 10. So this also similar trend. We had 61% of our students meeting and exceeding expectations compared to 42% at the state. And then you look at those students who are not meeting expectations. 1% of students at the high school did not meet expectations, and it was 11% of the state. So that is a great performance in that regard.
That's great.
Would it ever be 0?
It can be, yeah, yep, absolutely. And that is where we would strive. Questions on science?
Good stuff.
All right. So that was achievement. Now we'll look at growth, and I won't go into too much detail about growth other than to say that ultimately, if you perform between 1 and 39%, you are showing low growth. The desire and the expectation is that students, and then of course grade levels, when you're looking at the school level and district level, is you want growth between 40 and 59%. High growth is 60 to 99%, but ultimately the state has a formula for this. So students don't get a growth number in grade 3 because it's their first year taking MCAS, but in grade 4 they begin to get a growth number. So in grade 3 they look and say, here's these students who all performed, who all received a 420 last year, and they clump them all together, and then they say, here's the expectation where those students who perform similarly should be next year. And so you're compared to those students, and that kind of gets reshuffled every single year. So a pretty basic chart that I put together here, which shows you, grade level is the first column. Then we have all students and what their growth scores were at each grade level, and then the next column, the column next to that, is students with disabilities. So all those green cells show where we're making acceptable, appropriate level growth. Where you see white at grade 10, those students don't get a growth score, so that's why there's no data in there. And then there's 3 cells up there where we were below acceptable growth levels: grade 10 ELA for all students, grade 6 math all students, and then grade 7 math students with disabilities. Again, not in that 40 to 60 range where we want to be, not far off, but still something important data for us to have and consider and look at.
And some of this, when you're looking at growth, as Mr. Keller talked about, right, getting those kids into that exceeding expectations, that factors into the growth, right, is getting those kids pushed up there, but they may have done just fine, right? So
That's right.
Yeah.
And sometimes our students who are consistently performing high, it's hard to get them more growth.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. So if you exceed expectations, your growth points might just stay where they are because you can't exceed more.
Well, you can, but you're compared to those students who also scored at exceeding
Okay.
expectations. So correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Chamberlain, but I think what I heard her saying is that those students are still performing really well, but the growth may not necessarily be there, despite the fact that they're still performing high.
Right, but their growth is measured against their peers that are at that same level. So, for an example, right, if they move 2 points, that might be the same as significant growth compared to somebody that might had to get 10 to go
Yeah.
from
Right.
lower to, right? It's all adjusted that way. It's a complicated formula that they use to figure
Yeah.
all this out.
There is a lot of people at the Department of Ed who are doing some
data
remarkable
crunching.
things. Yeah, yeah. I follow a portion of it, but there's some impressive things happening in terms of data that I try and keep at surface level for my own brain. But
I don't know if you heard this through the chair, but I heard that the math was exceedingly difficult this past year. So I mean, that's really like for us to get that much green. I heard it was
Like the math that the kids had.
the math. No, the math MCAS
The test
was
itself.
the test itself was very difficult. Apparently, like in the teacher circles are saying that it was just a very difficult test. So the fact that we did show that much growth is pretty amazing.
Yeah. I wonder why they do that after COVID, but
I think that like sometimes they don't realize this is what they assume that children should be able to be doing. But I get again like sometimes they're far removed enough from the classroom that they don't realize that it is harder than what sixth grade or seventh grade or eighth grade is actually doing.
Yeah, and they do have teachers who sit in on those development things, but we have seen seems like anecdotally a change in really the readability.
Yeah.
So it isn't always so much the math. It's the ability to read and understand the question.
yeah, I have trouble sometimes reading my kids' problems.
Yeah, and that I think is part of the issue
And
because
they can print like previous tests so they can look back and they release questions and sometimes we've looked at them and you're like, what? Like even us, even math teachers, like I have no idea what they're asking for. So there is certain years where it just happens to throw in a couple hard ones and then the kids, you know.
And they get discouraged and they're like, forget it, I'm done. And then they just won't answer anymore. So
And there's always a few of those kids that, you know, this is not important to them. So that's why, like, I love when, you know, Alan puts this on here. Like, it's just a photo because there are some kids that are like, I don't care. And then 20 minutes later, they're like, I'm done. And you're like, oh my God, this is supposed to take you like 3 hours. So that can be very, especially for teachers who feel like this is what they're being rated on, you know. So it is hard because kids, we are at the mercy of 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds who, and maybe even older, who are like, I don't care about this. So it is nice to see that, you know, we're looking at it as like data instead of like punitive in that way.
Well, so, and then I will mention next steps. So continuing to look at the MCAS data, you know, like I said, it's important. It gives us information. We look at historical trends and say, okay, have we been doing really well in certain curriculum areas over the past couple of years? Are there areas where we're not doing so well? And so that's conversations we're having at the building level with principals. Principals are having those conversations with teachers at staff meetings, et cetera. Implementing intervention and support models at the schools, as well as enrichment. Talking about that, moving students into that exceeding expectations. So how are we helping to push them along? We are piloting a math diagnostic and intervention tool at AMS this year. I talked at our last meeting about our language-based strategies, the professional development that we've had. So that's continuing to extend that work into this year with our grades 3 through 8. And then Dr. Chamberlain mentioned Friday's professional development. We're starting with a professional development focus this year on literacy, K through 5, and particularly getting into writing and helping providing support to teachers around those beginning writing skills and establishing those. So a lot of work that we're doing. Again, the data is important. It's not the be all and end all, but it does give us some important information. And as I said it before, but tremendous compliments to teachers for preparing students and having them in a place to deliver the performances that we saw.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I don't remember details from years prior, but it seems like we did better this go around than ones in the past. But I don't remember if so.
You didn't
I mean,
have to
you're
refer to COVID once.
Trying not to. Yeah.
find improvements though from
Yeah, there's
years
definitely areas of improvement. There are bright spots. There are also areas where we need to do some work as well. So, and I don't think that's unusual to any district. And as I said at the beginning, that's the state in general was down and is not recovering from COVID. But at first when you look at the data, you don't have anything to compare it to. You can't see the state numbers, so you look and say, okay, we have this information, and we start looking at some of the curricular pieces. But then when the state data comes out, that is helpful to see how we did compared to our like districts and compared to the state.
All righty. Okay, thank you for that thorough report.
You're welcome.
It was awesome. All right, Ms. Stanek, you're up.
So I have provided year-to-date budget report for you for the FY25 school year. It's dated September 30th. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? Did you get a hire to help you?
I have a payroll assistant starting on Tuesday.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yes, and we have a business office clerk, hopefully, I think it's the 24th, so 2 weeks. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, good. We still have you on board, so that's good.
Yes.
Do we have any questions for her regarding the year-to-date report?
No.
Okay.
And then I have also provided a list of budget transfers dated September 30th between the same series and between different series for which I'm seeking your approval.
Okay, any questions or discussion? No?
No, we knew that was coming.
All right, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the list of transfers dated September 30th as presented by the business manager.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. We do not need executive session.
We do not.
Just want to throw out there, good luck to Florida, and we're thinking of you and praying for all of you. We do have students that go to Tampa and other schools in the area, and they are home, which is good. I don't know about years, upperclassmen and all that, but yeah, we're definitely praying for all of them. So,
Sure.
yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a good night.